Hello there, the internet. Hope that you're all well. Thank you very much for stopping by. I have a product review for you today, and first, an unboxing. I haven't actually opened this yet. Hopefully in there is an 8BitDo Neogeo wireless controller compatible with Windows, Android and the Neogeo Mini. Now, something on screen right now might lead you to believe I've got a bit of experience with game controllers, and that would be true for Nintendo, for Sega, for Microsoft and for Sony, but I've never owned or even played a home Neo Geo console. That goes for the original Neo Geo console from 1991, the AES, the scandalously priced cartridge-based system, or the Neo Geo CD, which is what that controller is based on. Now, this controller is licensed officially by SNK, the people who made the original Neo Geo consoles and the Neo Geo Mini, which you can still buy on Amazon. But I've never played them. I've got no experience with them, but I read a lot of good things about the Neo Geo CD console and the clicky joypad. So I was interested to use it, but I had no real reason to go out and buy it because I've got so many controllers. I've got the DualShocks and the Dual Sensors, and then that there is an N64 controller which I've converted using 8BitDo's conversion kit to turn it into a Bluetooth wireless controller, and that works really well. And I've also got the 8BitDo M30 controller, which I also bought from Amazon 6-7 months ago when I'm playing Sega games. That's really good. I do prefer the original Mega Drive and Sega Saturn controllers, but if I want to play things wirelessly, remotelessly, really good, really good. So I have got a lot of experience with 8BitDo controllers, and they are really good. So I'm hoping for good things with this one. Did I really need it though? Well, up until very recently, probably not. But then I noticed I've got access to the Amazon Prime gaming system as part of my Amazon Prime account. I've just never really used it. But while I was testing that particular controller out, I discovered the Amazon Prime gaming system, and there were a lot of Neo Geo games on there, well, SNK games on there, including Metal Slug and King of Fighters. And I started playing it with that controller. And that controller, while it's great for Nintendo games, is absolutely useless for SNK Neo Geo games. So I thought, maybe I've got a justification for going out and buying that. So that's what we've done. I've gone out and bought that, and I'm going to hook it up to my computer once I've opened this, had a play with it, and see how it gets on playing the SNK based games that are on Amazon Prime Gaming. So let's go ahead and have a look what's in here. So like I say, I've not opened this yet, so could be absolutely anything in here. I'm hoping it is the controller. So there we go. There is the SNK 8BitDo controller. Right then, Neo Geo wireless controller compatible Windows, Android and the Neo Geo Mini. Now, in there will be the gamepad. There is a USB cable, and it's compatible with Bluetooth and 2.4 gigahertz. There should be an adapter in there like I got with previous joypads. So how do we get in here? I need my trusty Swiss Army knife to get into here. Yep, on this side as well. Yes, there is. Okay. Right, let's see what's in here. Oh, it's in a little bag. Okay, there is the 8BitDo SNK controller. Right then, I understand that those weren't original fittings. They weren't on the original ones, but you do need left and right triggers these days. But oh yeah, clicky. That's interesting. Now, one of the reasons I'm drawn to this is because I play a lot of retro games. I play emulators, and I play the actual genuine original games. So I've got hundreds of games. Actually, I've got over 1,000 games. I had a bit of a count up, and it's well over 1,000 original games I've got either in here floating around. I've got all sorts of games floating around, original Outruns and Sega Rallies, all my Saturn Mega Drive games down here. But up in the loft, I've got boxes of stuff, and a lot of those old games don't really make use of analog controllers. You need the D-pad controller, and it's almost like a best of both worlds. It sits in between an analog and a digital pad. So when you're playing fighting games, which what the Neo Geo was famous for, things like King of Fighters and stuff like that, the D-pads on things like PlayStations, even the latest PlayStations, they're horrible for playing with the D-pad. They're just not right for when you want to do combinations and stuff. They don't work right, but that should work really nicely. I'm looking forward to playing with this. So we've got the four traditional buttons: start, select, and various connection buttons that you have for all the 8BitDo controllers seem to have these this. There you go. They've got the similar sort of buttons for connecting to different systems, and on the back I noticed there is a switch for changing between 2.4 gigahertz and the Bluetooth controller, so you can effectively have it set up on a couple of systems if you want. Then there's a USB-C charging port there. So let's have a look what else we've got in here. We've got a little instruction manual. There is the 8BitDo dongle. I've got. I'm trying to think. I do. Oh, there it is. I've got one of these from years and years ago. I used to have a Raspberry Pi that I used as a gaming system, and that's the original 8BitDo one, which was in the sort of Super Mario style. I haven't used that for a long time, but I do still keep hold of it. So that will give you 2.4 gig access for that to connect to your laptop, PC, whatever. And also, obviously, you can connect by Bluetooth, which should be Windows computers should be pretty much compatible as soon as you turn it on. Right, so we've got a USB-C to USB-A charging cable, pretty standard fare. And then we've got that's useful to have a conversion kit. So if you've only got USB-C ports available, that will turn the USB-A into a USB-C. That's quite useful to have, actually, that is. Alright, so there we go. Got some instructions there on how to connect it. I imagine it to be pretty straightforward, so let's go ahead and set it all on my laptop. Okay, let's take a look at setting this controller up on a Windows laptop. I'm going to do Bluetooth first. You need to switch it into Bluetooth mode with that switch on the back. Now, the instruction booklet doesn't suggest that Bluetooth is a means of connecting it to a Windows laptop. Bluetooth is meant to be for Android devices and for the Neogeo Mini. However, if you so wish, you can connect it to your Windows computer by Bluetooth, as I'm showing here. Now, it does have a few limitations though. First of all, it comes up with an odd name. It comes up with a 16-button controller, and if you notice from this, while the D-pad works, if I go through the buttons, it misses out a number of the buttons. It also shows that there are indeed 16 buttons on Windows. They're not represented by this controller, and a couple of the buttons don't work at all. It's a bit odd. It really doesn't quite fully work in Bluetooth mode on a Windows computer. I would highly recommend you set it up on the 2.4 gig dongle. So we've switched it over now to the 2.4 gig on the back of the controller. Plug the USB dongle into your Windows computer and press start for it to turn the joypad on. There you go. It's now recognised it as an 8BitDo controller, and you see that Windows has only got a few buttons shown on there rather than 16 as we saw previously with Bluetooth. And all the buttons do work, except oddly for those two buttons down at the bottom. I'm not sure if they're Android specific though. Now, this is the Amazon Prime gaming service that I mentioned, and there are a lot of SNK retro games available on here. If you have access to Amazon Prime, then it's well worth checking this out. I honestly didn't know I had this up until only a couple of weeks ago. Here we go, Metal Slug X, absolutely banging game, and as you can see in the box out in the left corner there, it works perfectly with this 8BitDo controller. There are a number of Metal Slug games on the Amazon gaming service, and seriously, check them out. They're great fun, side-scrolling shoot-em-ups, proper retro action. I do love playing these games, I really do. And of course, the 8BitDo controller works perfectly with it, as it does with all the fighting games you've got available to you on the Amazon gaming service. This is the King of Fighters, absolutely legendary game, very much like Street Fighter. Then you've got Art of Fighting, Fatal Fury, Last Blade. There's a lot of these fighting games to choose from. This is a isometric top-down racing game called Over Top, very similar to the Thousand Lakes and World Rally games you may have come across in the arcades in your youth. And then here's Super Sidekicks. I remember pumping 20p after 20p into this arcade machine in the corner of my local snooker club back in the 90s. I used to love this game. I've had a great time over the last couple of days playing these SNK classics on this 8BitDo wireless controller. So, having had the 8BitDo Neogeo wireless controller for a couple of days now and played plenty of games on it, what are my thoughts? Well, very positive. Considering I had no justification for owning this joypad up until a couple of weeks ago, I've played it a heck of a lot in the last couple of days. Finding those Amazon Prime SNK games on their gaming service was brilliant, because this is an absolute slam dunk for those games. If you have access to that service, this is the controller for you. It works perfectly with them. I can't complain about it. And of course, if you have a Neogeo Mini, well, get your wallet out now. It's the perfect partner for that. But what about if you don't have access to any Neogeo Mini or systems that provide Neogeo games? Is there a use for it? Well, if you're into retro gaming, then yes, there is. Any one of those joypads up there, any 2 or 4 button joypads, certainly ones which have got a digital D-pad, This is a perfect complement for those as well. And also, in the instruction manuals, it will tell you that while it's defaulted as a standard D-pad, if you press select and left for 5 seconds, then this becomes a left analog stick. If you press select and right for 5 seconds, then it becomes a right analog stick. Press select and up and it returns to a D-pad. So you can have it as an analog stick joypad as well if you want, and that is really good. It's a very, very versatile little joypad, this. How comfortable is it? Well, it feels quite comfortable actually. I did notice a little bit of fatigue in my left thumb, which is kind of quite common on the older joypads and very common on this. The D-pad on this, I don't think it's particularly good, and it does tend to get stuck actually. When I'm playing games, it does want to get stuck over on the extremities, and you have to kind of push it back on the other side, so it's not ideal, this joypad. It's very, very good, but it does have its failings, but so far I have not found any of those kind of failings with this. I really like that. It feels good, it feels positive, and on the SNK games it works brilliantly. If you can imagine NES, SNES, Master System games where you've got either the 2 or 4 button layout, it works perfectly for that. And you can even use it on a PlayStation format game, so either as a D-pad or swap it over to the analog stick. It works perfectly for that. I've really enjoyed my time with this over the last couple of days. Certainly playing the Neogeo games, it works perfectly with that. And if you're into any kind of retro gaming, then this is a worthwhile consideration. It rivals 8BitDo's own top-selling retro gamepads, the SN30, which is based on the SNES controller up there, and the derivative of that, the Pro 2 controller. Both of those are exceptional controllers, and I would consider this alongside them, if not even a replacement for them. And those controllers go for around about £40 RRP. This was £30 RRP, although I got it about £1.50 cheaper than that on an offer on Amazon. I highly recommend it. It's comfortable. Like I say, it did have a little bit of fatigue on my my left thumb. Maybe that's just because I'm getting old and probably a little bit arthritic. But it's an exceptionally good controller. It really is. And I highly recommend it. Do leave a comment in the section below what you think of this new joypad from 8BitDo, or for that matter, what your favourite joypad is. I like getting into a discussion of what people think are their favourite joypads. We're all different, we've all got different likes and tastes. If you found the video helpful, do remember to leave me a like, I do appreciate it. And if you subscribe to the channel, you'll be notified of the next product review video I do, or retro gaming playthrough. I've got a new Apple Watch 9 coming later today, so I imagine that will be my next review. Anyway, until then, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.